Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. Now before we get started on this, I just want to say a quick thank you to everyone who wished us a happy holiday. We got back at 4 o'clock yesterday. We've got quite a few mosquito bites between us, but we've got more happy memories than we have bites, so that's worked out pretty well. Right, so what we've got here is a wonderful piece of apple burl. It's been sat drying on my window ledge for quite a while, and that has produced quite a few cracks, which is fine because I think most of those are going to be turned away. Now I'm not quite sure what this is going to be, and I'm sure the wood will tell us as we're going along, but we'll get it on the lathe and we'll get cracking. Now the majority of the burl on this piece is on the bottom. It's around this area here. So if that was the top, then there's a reasonable chance that would turn the majority of it away. So I'm thinking that this should be the top and the burl will come around the side, and if we end up doing a vase, then you'll be able to see the burl at the bottom. So I think we're going to mount it between centres that way and start working up the sides and see what evolves. Okay, we are very well balanced for a strange piece like this. We can start turning at about 680 RPM. I've got a 1/2 inch bowl gouge. Face shield is ready, so we can get started. Okay, oh wow. I wasn't quite sure what to expect underneath that bark, but that is, I've never seen anything like that. That's quite remarkable. Okay, right, let's take this further up. I'm going to take light passes. I don't want to remove too much. We do need to get rid of these cracks, mostly. A few cracks in there I won't mind too much, but let's try and sympathetically progress, but keep on stopping regularly so we don't miss any opportunities, because that is remarkable. Okay, right, those cracks do go in a fair way, don't they? Boy, look at that. Okay, we'll keep on going, see if we can work up the sides a bit more to get rid of some of these cracks. I'm still not sure exactly what this piece is going to be, whether it turns into a hollow form or a bowl or even a bud vase or something like that. I'm not sure yet, but let's keep going. See if we can expose a bit more on this area here to see what's happening underneath. But that is extraordinary. Okay, right, still got a long way to go with these cracks. Whether or not we'll get rid of them all, I'm not quite sure. I'm just starting to close in the tops a little bit, just to explore that shape, to see how it looks. But this really is proving to be quite remarkable. Right, we'll continue on. I'd like to expose a little bit more of this, still work out a few more of these cracks, and we'll keep on taking this over. It may not be in the final design, but again, we're just exploring the shape, exploring the wood, see what comes out. cracks are slowly disappearing. That's still very deep. This one, deeper still. So we may not get all of these by turning. So an alternative is going to have to be sought. Whether or not we fill them or leave them, I'm not quite sure yet. But we're starting to clear this wood here and it's leaving this beautiful grain. So we've kind of got two decisions here. Do we leave this fantastic grain and deal with the cracks, or do we try and get rid of more of the cracks with the possibility of losing this grain? Although if we do go a bit deeper, we are going to expose more. I'm pretty sure of that. Right, let's just try and close this a little bit more over the top. See if we can just reduce that one a fraction and see how that looks. Okay, I think it's time to start making some sort of decision as to what we do with this. I think some sort of hollow form is the way to go. Right, let's just create a foot and a tenon on the bottom and then make a final decision. Okay, so that's the foot and the tenon sorted. I think this angle away from the foot needs to be different. I'm not quite sure exactly how yet, whether or not it needs to be like that and then narrow in here. I'm not quite sure. Right, I'm just going to quickly play around with this shape around here until I get something which I think looks nice, and then I'll figure out what I'm doing next. That's better. I still need to go over again, but I need to sharpen up again first. But that's a far nicer shape on that base. It's matching in with this. So I think the next step now is, rather than putting any finishing on it or sanding, is to turn it round, sharpen up again, and then we can start to finalise design and do all the sanding and finishing at the end. I don't think there's an awful lot more I can do without figuring out what I'm going to do on the inside. I love it when I'm halfway through and still not quite sure exactly what we're making. At least we've got a better idea now. Right, I'll get this turned round. Okay, we're turned round. I think we are going to go for some sort of hollow form on this. How much I hollow it out totally depends on how the wood reacts and how brave I'm feeling. With regards to the cracks, I do have some UV resin which I've been dying to try, so this could be a good opportunity to have a go at that. But first of all, I just want to try and close this over a little bit more, get rid of these kind of areas, and then see where we are before we carry on. Okay, I think we're nearly about there. Right, in order to fill these cracks with resin, you're going to need cleaning up an awful lot of it because there's an awful lot of feathering where the wood has split. So I'm going to get out my Dremel, my little pick tool. We'll see if we can clean these up a bit, and then we'll figure out how to use UV resin. Okay, all the cracks are cleaned up fairly well, so we're going to get some UV resin and start putting it in. Now this is the 500 gram pack from Let's Resin. It comes with 2 pots, each I presume with 250 grams. Normal safety lid at the start, and then you can swap it over to a small applicator nozzle which is resealable. Now you'll notice that it's black plastic because you don't want daylight shining on these bottles, because daylight, obviously, that big round ball in the sky emits an awful lot of UV. So I've closed the blinds in the workshop and we shall get started. Now, also in here there's a little mixing pot, so I'm going to be mixing quantities in there and then decanting that into these little pots I bought ages ago, but they have a very, very fine nib which will hopefully allow me to finally pour them into these cracks. So that's going to be very useful. I've also got a small UV pen which I'm going to be shining to cure little areas, and then finally I'll go over with my big UV light that we used for the black locust. Now I've never tried UV resin before, so I'm not entirely certain exactly what to expect, so we'll do it together and we'll see what happens. Now I have read the instructions. I am going to be using a face mask throughout because the gases from the resin can be harmful, or the fumes from the resin. Okay, let's give this a go. Remarkably easy process. I think the next best step, just to make sure everything is as cured as it can be, I'm going to take it off the lathe and just stand this piece up in front of the UV light and then just slowly rotate it for the next 20 minutes or so, just to make sure that everything is as hard as it's going to get. Okay, the UV resin seems to have done its job. Remarkably easy to use. Yes, it was time consuming, but you can see the amount of splits we've had to fill. I use green because, well, it's apple, so it seemed logical really. Right, I've got a 1 1/4 inch force and a bit on here. I'm just going to quickly go in about 5 inches, which is down to about there. Then I'm going to scrape the surface and then start hollowing out. I don't think there's much more to do than that. I am thinking about some sort of edge decoration on here, but we'll think about that more once we've got it coiled out and the sides sorted. I'm just putting a larger live centre in this end, just to help give us a bit of support while we're scraping the outside and just clearing off all this resin. It's not in there very tight, it's just going to give us a little bit of security. Okay, that's pretty good. I did hit a couple of pockets of resin that were just below the surface, that obviously I'd gone in too deep before trying to cure it. So that's something to learn and remember for next time. Right, what should I do now? I think it's time to start trying to hollow out a little bit. Now, to make life a little bit easier on myself, I'm just going to turn the headstock out so I've got room to get in there. Right, hour and a half later, we've hollowed out. I don't mind saying, I think that's the best I've ever done. I've always wanted to produce a piece where I could see my finger through it, or through the wall anyway, and there it is. Excellent. Right, I'm not going to have a lie down for a while because that took an awful lot out of me. More concentration than anything else, but that was a lot of effort. Right, I'm going to take a quick break and then we'll come back and start sanding, I think. Okay, I'm all recovered from the hollowing. I'm going to quickly sort out this lip and this inner edge, and then I'm going to set up for sanding. As usual, I shall let you watch a bit of it, but then I'll bring you back when it's done. Sanding went okay. Small issues with the green I was using for the dye. It's just stained the surface a little bit and it was a bit of a pain to get off. And there are still a few residues left over. While I was turning, I did contemplate dyeing this whole thing green, but I have fears that you will always kill me if I did that. So we should not dye it green. If you would prefer that I did dye green, then please leave a comment in the section below. Right, isopropyl, let's clean this off. It really is an incredible looking wood. We are going to have to darken it a little bit with a shellac, but I'm sure it'll still look just as nice. Let's put a sealer on. Okay, I've got a shellac sealer, and again, we're going to be putting it on with a brush. This will darken the lighter areas a little bit, but it will help protect the wood. It doesn't look too bad, does it? I thought it might go a bit darker than that, so I'm pretty happy. I'll try and get some sealer on the inside, but that opening could make it a little problematic. I pour a bit in the hole, and then give it a good stir. Excellent. Right, I'm going to let this sit for a little while to dry off, and then we'll go over the top with probably a full strength shellac, but we'll find out in a second. I'm not quite sure yet. Okay, that's had enough time to dry. I'm just going to go over the top with a boiled linseed oil. This is going to help protect the wood. It is a drying oil, so it will eventually dry nice and hard, but it's going to give us a nice colour on the grain. And it's going to help protect the wood as well, give it a nice lustre. I'm going to apply it in a very similar way like you would a Danish oil. I'm going to wipe it on, give it a chance to sit for 20 minutes, and then wipe off excess, and then do that 2 or 3 times over the next few hours. I've already managed to keep some of the moss on there. It matches the resin quite nicely. Okay, right. I'll give this a little while to sit. Come back, wipe it down, and repeat the process a few times. Then I'll turn it around, take the tendon off, and I shall bring you back and we shall take a look at the finished article. There we go. An apple burl hollow form. Some of the grain on this piece is really quite unusual. All these dark patterns going through here, that's all heartwood. Same colour as this. So makes you wonder what on earth has happened to this tree for the heartwood to become as distorted as that. It really is quite unusual. Using the UV resin was quite an interesting process. It is fairly straightforward in its application. The mistake I made, I think, was that on some of the deeper areas here, I was pouring the resin in and not curing it properly before putting another layer on. I think I was applying it too thickly, and that's what led to some of it being uncured when I was cutting it back. But apart from that, it's gone pretty well. The slight bit of staining I get from the green, that maybe could have been overcome by applying a sealer to the wood first. But overall, I'm pretty happy. My first proper hollow form. I'm so pleased that that worked. This rim here is really quite thin, so it could have gone spectacularly wrong at any point. If you've got any experience with UV resin and you'd like to share some ideas on how better to use it, then please leave it in the comments before. And if you've not used it before and would like to give it a go, then there's links in my description to where you can get the LET resin from. And there's a few discount codes as well. But apart from that, I think we'll call this a win. And I'm not going to sell this one because with it being my first proper hollow form, I'm going to keep hold of this one. Right, well, that's it for this week. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, I would really appreciate a like and subscribe and all the usual things. And if you can share the video as well, then that would be absolutely amazing. Don't forget, if you do leave a comment, then you are going to be entered into the next giveaway when that comes around. And apart from that, thank you very much indeed for watching, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.